So before we start off, we just want to pay recognition to a very, very dear friend and a top contributor to our tech community, MVP Leila Eteati. Apologies if I'm murdered. I'm not very good with languages. So unfortunately, Layla departed us not too long ago, but she was a big advocate of empowering the the tech community, and she's often here with us to promote the Global AI Bootcamp, but also women in tech. Some notes of some of what Layla has achieved to bring precedence to empowering women in IT is being the first Microsoft AI MVP in New Zealand and Australia, but also the co-organizer for two meetups and three conferences such as the Power BI Summit and Definity. She is a well-known international speaker, and for those of us who have had the blessing of getting to know her personally and one-on-one, if you've ever had a chance to shake her hand at one of the many meetups or tech conferences that she put together alongside her husband Reza, you would know that she was always a very positive person and always had a smile, and that's some of the legacy that she has left upon us. So.
Thank you, Chimene. Okay, so yeah, and she always has a smile on her face, like how the picture is showing. Sorry, I broke down. Okay, moving on. The agenda for today is we'll play a keynote video on Global AI Bootcamp, and then we have our lovely Chimene and Abby sharing on 2 sessions: search smarter in generative AI apps and build your own Copilot with AI Studio and Copilot Studio. Before that, I want to share some housekeeping rules. Online people, please keep yourself muted, and the session is being recorded. So if you don't want yourself to be in the record, you can disconnect from the call. And yeah, I hope you don't mind, right? Okay. And if you want to go to the restrooms, those are situated outside of those doors. Men's toilets are on the far corner and female toilets are on the first corner, but you need the swipe cards for that. One is, I think, on the door and one is somebody's using it. So you need to ensure that you take those cards and then go, otherwise you'll be locked out of the building. In case of fire, follow Daniel. In case of fire, follow Daniel. And three of the co-organizers are here. One is David, who went downstairs to get some people. The other one is Reza, who is there, and the other one is me for this meetup. So now let's proceed to, and thanks to the sponsors, Radacad has sponsored the lovely pizzas and drinks, and Microsoft for the speakers as well as the space. Okay, so let me play the video. Online, Luke, can you just let me know whether you can hear the sound?
Yes, I can.
I can't hear the sound. Sorry.
everyone, AI enthusiasts from all around the world. Welcome to the Global AI Bootcamp 2024. What a year 2023 has been, am I right? It feels like the entire world went a little crazy. But hey, at least we got some amazing advancements in AI out of it. The evolution of LLMs and small language models has been mind-boggling fast. And let's not forget the integration of vision into these models. It's like AI suddenly developed superhero powers overnight. But let me ask you something, my fellow AI enthusiasts. Do you also find it incredibly hard to keep up with all the latest updates? I mean, seriously, it's like trying to catch a hyperactive squirrel on roller skates. It's a never-ending race to stay on top of the latest AI trends and developments. Now, I know you're all expecting a fantastic video this year, but guess what? We've got something even better in store for you. We've been on a worldwide adventure traveling around the globe, interviewing industry leaders from different companies and cloud providers. Why? Well, we want to delve deeper into the fascinating interaction between humans and AI. And let me tell you, the insights we've gathered are mind-blowing. But wait, I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. How about a little sneak peek? Yes, you heard me right. We've got a preview video ready to give you a taste of what's to come. Brace yourself for Human Hearts, Silicon Minds, the show that will make you question everything you thought you knew about AI and its impact on our lives.
You and I have the mighty human brain, the ultimate in, AGI.
I'm more of the belief that these artificial intelligence models are going to be used to make humans more productive.
Are fundamentally not intelligent systems. As I said, it's an algorithm that's predicting out the next word from things. It's a very useful algorithm.
So for example, if I were to take a glass of water and I had ice cubes on the bottom of the glass of water, an AI might be able to say, hey, those ice cubes are in the wrong spot, but doesn't reason, oh, they need to float.
So it's not intelligence that makes you able to complete tasks well. It's actually expertise. It's actually experience.
When they say they love me, it doesn't really mean there's that chemical happening within the machine that we feel as human beings, right? So that's an area that I think we need to be very careful about.
What you do with an assistant is you don't explicitly tell it what to do. Instead, you give it power.
Like the older generation, they have no idea about what is going on, and they trust everything that they see, right? So they don't have this knowledge that you cannot trust everything that you see, that you listen, that you receive.
So we should hold ourselves to a higher bar, even if it's not against the law. If it's not illegal, doesn't mean we should do it.
Now, I know you're all eager to watch the entire series, and I promise you won't have to wait long. Over the next few weeks, we'll be releasing all the episodes on our YouTube channel. And of course, we'll be keeping you updated on all the latest news and behind-the-scene action on our social media channels. So make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us for all the AI goodness coming your way. But enough about our exciting new series, my friends. It's time to pass the torch back to the local hosts of the events you're attending right now. Whether it's in person or virtual, let's give them a big round of applause for their tireless efforts in bringing this amazing bootcamp together. So without further ado, I hope you all have a fantastic time at the Global AI Bootcamp 2024. Get ready to expand your knowledge, connect with fellow AI enthusiasts, and let's dive headfirst into the world of AI. Happy learning, everyone.
Thank you for listening to that. Call Abby. Stage is yours. Yeah.
Keep the cabin. Sorry, team. Just gonna get myself connected. Online, can I get a okay for hearing me?
Okay.
Thanks. All right, now for the screen. Upload.
Right, and can I get a thumbs up for the screen? Okay, for the screen, awesome. Thanks, Kevin. And so kia ora, everyone. Thanks for thanks for coming. Thanks for the great introduction, Chimene and Indira. So I'm Abby. I work at Microsoft. My role is a technology strategist for digital natives, application developers, and independent software vendors. I happen to be in the same team as the amazing Daniel Scott Rainsford with the same job title. And yeah, I'm pleased to be talking to you about search in generative AI apps today. I'm just going to move my mic down a bit to counter the echo. Cool. So generative AI apps, as you know, they're powered by reasoning and knowledge, but how do you find the best information for your users? So today I'm going to talk a bit about search and retrieval systems that enable these Gen AI applications to work on your own data or your customers' data so that your apps can search smarter and to be smarter. Cool. So we'll start with retrieval augmented generation. How many people are aware of RAG or you know a little bit about retrieval augmented generation? Cool. Dan, put your hand down. Half the room. Cool. So we'll start with retrieval augmented generation or RAG, what that is. Then we'll go into vectors and vector databases that underpin most of these RAG systems, and then go into vector search, which is our move into searching. Then we'll talk about data processing as part of the search, and finally retrieval, which is getting your results on the other end. So with that, retrieval augmented generation. So I've been told we've been gratefully sponsored with 3 giveaways. So here's the first question. Who can tell me the difference between ChatGPT and Microsoft 365 Copilot? Yes, man.
Copilot has boundaries in terms of the data it can access. It is actually a ring-fenced version where you have more control on the data you're sharing or everything you have. So
yeah, awesome, cool.
Public.
I don't know what these are, but here's a mug for you. Yay! Cool. So both ChatGPT and Microsoft 365 Copilot, they are both applications, firstly. So they're both apps. They are not the AI. They are the user interface that exposes some kind of functionality and features. Actually, has anyone played with ChatGPT? Yeah, everyone? Okay, cool. Won't shame the ones who haven't. And anyone used Microsoft 365 Copilot? Cool, awesome, love that. So under the hood, both of these applications, under the hood, they both use OpenAI's models, and depending on what version you're using, it could be, GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT-4, and so on. So as our friend here was saying, so ChatGPT knows basically everything, or knows what the model quote unquote knows, right? And what the model knows is a consequence of the large language training that it's gone through. So it doesn't actually know knowledge, but it happens to know, kind of like autocomplete, what is typically comes after the previous word. So the answers are non-deterministic. If you've asked ChatGPT the same thing over and over again, it gives you slightly different answers, but it doesn't actually know whether I'm doing it, whether Chimene's questioning, whether it's, you sir there, or whether it's Daniel at the back. The model operates exactly the same. So ChatGPT sort of does the same thing regardless of who the user is, because it doesn't know who the user is, and the user doesn't change what ChatGPT knows about the human language, and as I was saying before, what's more likely to be the next word or the next part word in that kind of autocomplete fashion. So as an aside, I caveat that we are talking about the free version of ChatGPT, because with the paid version, you can actually have plugins, and that enables you to literally plug information into it. But for simplicity, when we're talking about vanilla ChatGPT, what you say it to the chat is literally all it knows about you, and everything else is just what the model comes with. So Microsoft 365 Copilot, meanwhile, so for M365 Copilot, as our friend here was saying, without me needing to explicitly tell it who I am, It knows who I am. It can access my emails and my contacts. It knows who I am not, and therefore whose emails and contacts I cannot access, which is everyone else other than me. And when I use M365 Copilot, it can go into my emails, it could see what files I have access to, and my emails definitely do not come up when someone else uses M365 Copilot. So what we call there is that it is grounded in what it knows about me based on my Microsoft 365 data, in addition to what it knows about, the human language and how we string words together. And so it knows that as well, which is in the model, and then it knows who I am as well as what I've told, anything that I've put into my input. So as an example, whoops, don't do that. As an example, if I wanted to ask ChatGPT about the Falcon Climate Finance Project, ChatGPT is going to be like, what? I've never seen this before. I don't know what you're talking about. So if I instead asked Microsoft 365 Copilot, so this is the web version, I say, hey, tell me about the Falcon Climate Finance Project. It goes back and tells me, it's an innovative initiative, it does this, that, and the other, and it references this file here called the Falcon Climate Finance Project Word document. And then if I then asked, what are the top priorities this week on the project, it's going to tell me it's green bonds, it's climate risk, and it's carbon pricing. And it is referencing something called Falcon Climate Finance Project Weekly Priorities, and that's an email. So what these are exactly these two files. I created them just for this demonstration, but I have a Word document in my OneDrive called Falcon Climate Finance Project. It says what the project is, and then I have this email that I sent at 3:44 p.m. And if you took note of actually, I'll swing back. And when I was having a conversation with Copilot, that was 3:46, and it was saying a couple minutes ago, Abby Shen sent out this email about the top priorities, and there we have it: green bonds, climate risk, and carbon pricing. So that's what M365 Copilot was able to know without me having to actually give it the file or do anything. It's sitting in my OneDrive and it already has access. So just to show that again, so if I go into Copilot, I ask a question about the project, Copilot takes a minute to think about it, and then it'll render this answer on the screen with a bunch of detailed, grounded information that's based on M365, and then it references where that information came from. So I can actually, in that example, I can drop down the reference, I can click the document, and it's going to open that document up in my browser. So back to when I type that question and hit go again, Copilot says, I am thinking about this. So under the covers, what it is doing is Copilot has an orchestration system, and what it does is it goes into the Microsoft Graph, or effectively my M365, using who I am, and then in this particular case, it's looking at my Teams messages, my Office documents, and so on, and it's looking for information that's related to the Falcon Climate Finance Project. And then it picks up the top few candidates, which was that Word file and that email that looks the most relevant for this question, and it gives it back to, and it finds them, right? So if I asked vanilla ChatGPT, there isn't going to be this step. It doesn't look into my M365, it doesn't know what documents I have. What gets sent to the large language model is literally my question. Summarize the recent messages this week about Falcon Climate Finance. Jeepers, I needed to have a better name. That's a bit of a tongue twister. So back to Copilot, what Copilot eventually actually sends to the model is not only my input, but it's also a constructed prompt that includes that input question I put in, some extra instructions that Copilot has been configured with. Maybe my organization put some special policy on, or maybe I have some setting on that. And then it's got some context, like it knows my name, it might know my job title, and then also those bits and pieces it retrieved from my Microsoft 365 data that it thought was relevant. And so a whole lot of information is actually getting sent to the language model under the hood, and then the language model is applying its capabilities over all of that information to generate that answer I get at the end. And so that's the answer that Copilot renders on the screen. And if you ignore a lot of the technical details. Over and over again, this is what happens when you're using large language models on your own data. So if you were, instead of using a pre-existing application like Copilot, if you were building your own Copilot, or you were using any Copilot that someone else has built that retrieves information to augment the generative AI model, hence RAG, this is what happens. And so in that case, say you were building your own Copilot code with your own orchestration, either you've written that in code or you're using one of the open source frameworks. So that's the application layer there. And then you'll have a retrieval system that then captures the data from whatever it is that you're storing. So maybe it's a database system, maybe these are PDFs and Word documents in some sort of blob storage, or wherever it's maybe data in SharePoint, data back in your website, wherever it may be. The retrieval system is what goes and finds where that data is and pulls out the relevant bits and pieces to augment your question. And then finally, you will have a large language model, which is, say, the Azure OpenAI GPT models, to then apply reasoning and content and then produce that response and string it together in human language. So in the context of retrieval augmentation, the response from your application or your Copilot, whatever you call it, it's only going to be as good as the grounding data that it gets from the data source. So if, say, for my Falcon Climate Finance project, it didn't find my email because, it didn't find my Word document because I named it something funny, or it instead retrieved my Word document about like Ford Falcon cars, because it's like, Falcons, that's the same. And then it started giving me a response about, Ford Falcon cars and like what engines they have, then the response and the experience is going to be poor. So this is what makes the retrieval part of this equation very important to the overall quality of these Gen AI apps. And so when it comes to search, what we're all familiar with is keyword search. It's been around for a long time. It has its advantages even today. But there are just particular challenges when you use keyword search, especially for question and answer type systems, because the questions and the answers typically just don't, or not typically, but often don't overlap on keywords. So like in this example, if I went asking for lessons on underwater activities and my data source actually just names those activities like scuba diving and snorkeling, the question and the answer does not have any keyword overlap, even though it makes a lot of sense that if I'm asking about underwater activities, that scuba and snorkeling are related. And I'm sure we've all experienced this when we're searching for a file and you can't for your life remember what you named it, and so you can't find it. And so this is known as the vocabulary gap problem. And what we often actually want, instead of matching exact keywords, is conceptual or semantic similarity rather than exact keywords. And so if you're able to match things based on their meaning, then things like morphology or just different choices of words, you will still get the same. You will still get your search results. So that brings us to vectors. So there's techniques that allow us to model the similarity between items. And what it does at sort of a general level is it's a machine learning model that takes whatever item that may be that sentences, pictures, sounds, paragraphs, and a variety of other things, and then they encode them into fixed length vectors so that items that yield similar vectors are close together in a high dimensional space. So for example, if I was scuba diving, Chimene might be standing next to me, she'll be snorkeling, and then lemons and limes, you guys are sitting out the back somewhere pretty close to each other, because you're quite different from underwater activities, but you're quite similar to each other. And so, but just instead of this 3D space that we're in, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of dimensions. And so once you have that, vector search is basically I'll take all my content, I'll convert each item into a vector, I'll put you guys all in the room, and then when I want to find the one that I'm after, I'll grab my query vector and then the thing that I want to look for, and I'll look around the room to find who are the ones that are closest to me. And these are my K, or number. These are my K closest neighbors to the query vector, and those are the most semantically similar to the thing I'm looking for. And so that's pretty much a way to describe vector search. So those of you who are maybe a bit more visual or use code, here's just an example of creating a vector in code. Pretty much 2 lines. I call this embedding model, in this case, the ADA 002 embedding model. I call the embedding model and I say, hey, embedding model, encode my input hello world. And it gives me this vector here, this bunch of numbers. They represent hello world in vector space based on that particular embedding model. And the length of the vector is the dimensionality of the space. So if there were only 3 numbers, then it's in 3D space. And in this particular case, the OpenAI embeddings, they use 1536 size vectors. So that's 12, and then it keeps going, and it's in this really complex high dimensional space. And hello world is a line in there. And so another way to look at it is around the queries is if I had a query, my query is the new movie is awesome because I am, say, searching through a bunch of data looking for movie reviews. And I have these 3 pieces of information that I'm searching through. Then it's using that one query, it's going through the 3 pieces of information, and for each of them comparing how close they are together. I'm definitely going over stuff that I didn't learn in math, but it's some sort of mathematical computation. It's called cosine similarity. If you want to look into it, go ahead. But basically, 1 means they're exactly the same, and then the lower the number, the further apart the 2 vectors are. And so if you're wanting, k nearest neighbors, and k is 2, then you'll get, the recent movie is so good, as well as the new movie is awesome. And these are the results that match your search, which would be pretty good if that was your query. And so that's it, searching through vectors using k nearest neighbors. So KNN search, if you see KNN, that's what it stands for, k nearest neighbors. And now you just do this, fast, you do this effectively, you do this durably, vectorize the query, compare, and that's vector search. Yeah, all good? Cool. So, so instead of you having to do that over and over again, that's the role of a vector database. So vector, sorry, I use data and data like super interchangeably. So vector databases are database systems that operate in vectors. So they offer a durable storage and indexing to make this happen very fast. And they usually go beyond just vectors as well. So they can do some extra things like filtering, sorting, access control, and so on. Just pretty much a good, robust database system, like all the ones we're familiar with, but specialized for vectors. And so Azure AI Search is one such vector database. I'm going to use that as my example, although this is definitely not the only vector database around. It's not even the only one that's on Azure. But just to show that it is so much more than just a database. It's actually the sort of best work in retrieval systems. And I want to use it as an example to show retrieval systems. And just to do it justice, I have one salesy slide in this whole presentation. This is it. Azure AI Search offers a comprehensive solution for retrieval. So first, it's a complete vector database with all the capabilities. It automatically handles data ingestion, it integrates with the rest of the machinery in Azure, and it gives you state-of-the-art ranking, which I'll explain later on in the presentation. And of course, it's built on this sort of rock-solid enterprise-ready foundation for some of the largest applications out there. So enough about that as a product, but specifically on vector search. So in Azure AI Search, or actually basically many of the vector databases out there, you'll find the capabilities to create a solution for vector-based retrieval or for RAG. And so vector search has been actually generally available for a while, for a couple months. And what it does is what you saw with my Falcon Climate Finance project example. So instead of my M365 data, I could also be searching anything, right? Like a database, like some files in storage. And my question would have been turned into a vector. That vector would have been given to Azure AI Search. AI Search looks through all the things in the data source that I gave it. It finds the relevant ones, which might still be a Word document and an email, as the things that are closest to my question in vector form, and it goes and gets those, it goes and then retrieves those documents out of my data store. So that's the job of AI Search. And then when you think back at generative AI apps, AI search is done after that. It will then hand those search results back to Copilot, or in this case, it might be ChatGPT, it might be any application that you're using, which then uses its knowledge of English and forms that response it would send back to me. So because everything is in vector form, it's based on the meaning. Even if I forgot what it was called because it was such a tongue twister, I forgot the name of it, and I actually went and asked my application, hey, tell me about the initiative that aims to use financial tools to support environmentally friendly and sustainable development. That doesn't mention anything about climate finance, about green bonds, about carbon whatnots. It doesn't mention any of that, but it would still be able to find the document because the meaning is the same. And so in that big vector space, the vectors are still pretty much in the same area. So of course, I just have to note there, if you do have many similar initiatives on climate finance, then you'd have a lot of vectors in that vicinity. And so just like when you're asking a human to go look for something, if there are a lot of things that might match it, then in order for you to get the one that you're after, then you might want to add some extra information, like the one I recently got a weekly update from Abby about, and that might nudge search to be able to find that particular email you're after. Cool. So yeah, just a reminder about RAG again, this diagram shown before. AI search is that retrieval system. You can use it, you can actually use it with any agent. You can use it with any large language model, or you could actually use AI search exists independently as well. And there are plenty of use cases for search outside of generative AI or outside of RAG. But because we are talking about generative AI apps here, so we're talking about the LLMs, and then we're talking about the application that's interacting with the user, but also orchestrating the whole flow of going to the search and then going to the large language model. So I won't go into technical details on this, but just a broad brush over it. There is more to vector search than what I showed with those two screenshots of code. That does, vectorization and vector similarity. So don't think like a vector database or AI search is literally 2 lines of code. But just some common things that you would come up as part of building an application. Often you want to do a little bit more than just retrieving the data. You might need things like filtering to say, hey, I only want documents in this particular date range, or my users are in particular regions and I only want policies that are relevant to the region that I'm talking about. And filters can also be used for pretty granular access control. So like if I asked a question and Chimes asked a question, the system might want us to get different answers because we can see different sources of information or we work in different teams. And additionally, you might want to support more than just single vectors. This gets a bit sort of mind-boggling, but basically you could either in the data source or in the text queries, you could have things like a text vector and an image vector, or a title vector and a body vector, and so on. So you could have different types of vectors. And the point is robust vector search solutions will allow you to just simply change the query type to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and it'll be able to handle all this extra nuance for you. So on the note of multiple vectors, there are also multiple modes of vectors. And so far, we've mostly talked about text vectors and text examples, but the exact same thing could also work on, on images, on sounds, on videos, and on other media types. As long as you have an embedding model that can encode those formats into vectors, then you could deal with them as vectors. And so there are even models that will mix multiple media types into the same vector space. So for example, in Azure AI Vision, you could ask it to map images and sentences into the same vector space. So then you can do image to image search or text to image search, image to text search, and so on. So you basically don't care about the media type, you could search regardless of them. And so with that, there are also models like OpenAI's latest ones, the GPT-4 Turbo with Vision. It can help you understand a picture using natural language, which pretty much means you can do RAG on pictures. So find me the picture about X, or in the other direction, here's a graph, tell me what this graph is showing. And it'll be able to do it because it'll be able to understand the different media types. So I was going to show this as a demo, but because I don't have a good app to show the functionality, it kind of looked a bit ugly. So I'm just going to show you a screenshot. I will listen in to Chimene's session and build my own Copilot so that I can show a cool demo with a cool user interface. But I'll talk you through what I did with the functionality, right? So basically, I got this bunch of pictures on the right, these whole lot of images. I ran them through an encoder and turned them into vectors, and then I chucked them inside Azure AI Search. So now I get this actual photo of a shoe. And what I would do is I would vectorize this picture and then run a query into Azure AI Search and ask it to find the closest item to my picture. So the question for the human intelligence that's in this room, what do you think is going to be the top result?
Shoes.
Left.
The middle left? Yeah, the shoes. All right, there's more than one person answered. Good on you, humans. So yes, correct, right? Indeed, I actually had a whole lot more photos in the data source, but basically, if I just kept going down, next best answer, it was going to go through all the hiking shoes and then move on to the sneakers and then move on to the sandals and then move on to the high heels. And it was going to take me a while if I wanted to get to tents and sleeping bags because they look nothing like this thing. And so this is how image searching in a catalog works. Now available straight out of the box. But hey, you would say actually we could do this before, right? Like pixel comparisons and whatnot could also do image searching. But the power of this is actually with the same functionality, the same setup that I have, I could have also asked using text, hey, how do I stay warm when resting during my camping trip? And question for the human intelligence, what's it going to give me? Jackets, sleeping bags, yeah. Actually, both are relevant. In this particular example, Matt, you won out. It gave me sleeping bags. So here is a notebook for you. Yeah, cool, congrats. So yeah, so it gave me sleeping bags, followed very closely by jackets actually, and maybe it might even give me, I don't know, gas cookers. Although I must say, if you go camping, it is extremely unsafe. Do not use gas cookers to keep you warm while you're sleeping on a camping trip. But hey, that's a good example actually, right? Even though they're probably fire and keeping warm are probably pretty close to each other in vector space. If you are writing an application, and this is the example, your app needs to do specific checks to take out those unsafe results, right? The model does not know anything about whether it's safe or not when it does the retrieval. You need to do that. And don't tell people to do things like, there was a particular supermarket that, you know, if you gave it, I had bleach and bread, what can I make with it? It's literally going to tell you to mix the bleach and the bread. And that is totally unsafe. The model doesn't know. Your app needs to be able to handle it. So yes, and to repeat, please do not use camping fires to keep yourself, or gas cookers to keep yourself warm. But the point of that text example is that there is no text whatsoever in my index. Like all my files are called like OA9BOB whatever .jpeg. It knows nothing. I gave it a bunch of images and the search was able to figure out which ones were relevant to keeping warm, which ones were relevant to sleeping, and so on. It is not in my index, those words at all. Cool. So I gave a couple examples about vectorization, but I actually cheated. Did anyone catch it? I'm not going to tell you now. So basically, yeah, I'm taking one of those notepads for myself now, right? So basically, I said vectorize my data, but actually, what does that even mean, right? Like if my data is a bunch of recipe books, did I actually want each book to be one vector? No, right? I don't. I actually want each recipe to be its own vector, so I can search the individual recipes as opposed to saying these two books are similar to each other. That's not very useful for my app. But then also I might have documents like, you know, my data source might not necessarily be structured. It might not be a catalog of recipes, each in books. It might be sections, subsections, long paragraphs, short paragraphs. I don't know, I might even have a video in there, some slides. You know, and with videos, you got to figure out which frames belong to the same scene because my video just cuts all over the place. And so when it comes to turning things into vectors, you actually have to know what are the units that you're turning into vectors. So yeah, so when you build these RAG applications, it's a little bit more complicated than YOL ADA 002 vectorize my data. You actually have to do a whole lot of work to prepare the data, to get it ready, and then to integrate it into the system. And so with that comes chunking, which is sort of what I said about chopping up those long documents into passages. And it's a full research area on its own, so I won't go into heaps of detail about chunking. But so one is chunking. You have to figure out what's the unit that you turn into vectors and how you separate your documents. And then in addition to that, you turn those passages into vectors, but it's not actually a one-time thing, right? Like you have to update your index every time the data changes. So say in my previous example, if I went and edited a particular sleeping bag image to a shoe, or I deleted one of those photos, then I actually need my vector index to be updated. Or otherwise, every time I search, it's still searching on what the data was the first time I did it, which would be outdated information. So how do I keep my vector index up to date without necessarily re-indexing every single one of my vectors every single time just one of them changes? So this is another reason that you might want to do, or that you might want to use vector search and use a vector database and retrieval system that can handle this kind of stuff for you. So covering sort of the end-to-end across all the data sources and supporting all the individual steps. This is actually a sales slide, so I'm sorry, I had 2 sales slides in here. This is my second one. So those steps, namely, being able to access the different data sources and be able to do sort of change tracking, so that when it's done indexing, it'll still catch the changes over time and reflect them in the index. It'll deal with the sort of different formats to be able to extract information out of forms, out of images, etc. It will then do the chunking, and then it'll use your encoder, your choice of encoder, or the OpenAI ones to, convert each chunk into a vector. And then finally, it'll pass all that stuff to AI search without you having to do this manually. So this is called integrated vectorization. It is a public preview feature, so it's super new stuff. But the idea is to integrate not only the vectorization step, but also to integrate all the other steps for that end-to-end data processing so that, yeah, you can do RAG scenarios straight out of the box. And so here's my second thing that I thought would be awesome for a demo, but it's actually overwhelming in functionality, just super underwhelming for a demo. So I will excite you with a screenshot. So about that integrated vectorization, the other cool thing is you can do all this in the browser. So you don't need to do code, you don't need to set up your Visual Studio. You could have a play with it if you wanted to open up the Azure portal, go to Azure AI Search, you click through the setup wizard, like tell AI Search where your data is, selecting your configuration options, your pricing tier and whatnot, and then you'll get this portal to play with where you can effectively enter in what you want to search. So up there, I'm searching tent here, and then it'll give you your results, and it shows what it looks like under the hood inside the AI Search, what the data actually looks like. So I think the data source here is still those camping images I imported into the AI search service. No, actually not. The data source is the product descriptions of those camping products I put into the, I used before in those images. And so the information got, taken from the source, it got ingested, it got parsed, it got chunked, it got vectorized, etc., etc. It did all that automatically. And then in the search box, I typed tent in this particular example, and here it shows this chunk, which is my top search result for if my query was tent. And so this is what it looks like behind the scenes. The first search result, the text is the Skyview 2-person tent is a lightweight, durable, easy to assemble tent, etc. It came from this particular chunk ID. This is what the chunk looks like. It comes from the file product15.md, and this is the vector. This is literally what this chunk turned into in the database. So and so actually, if you looked across here, oh, sorry, people, oh, hi. I don't know where the camera is, but if you looked across here, this is a preview of this whole chunk. And if you look down here, all this line of green stuff, that is the vector in like 1536 dimensional space. So that's what's being stored in the service, and it's storing that for every single item that I have in my data source. And so yeah, so this tool is actually pretty nifty for debugging or just playing around with search without having to use any kind of application or user interface. You can do things like AI search, just clickety click. Cool. So we talked about data ingestion, and now on the other end is retrieving the result, which is pretty critical for RAG if you think about it, considering it's called Retrieval Augmented Generation. And so, yeah, so let's talk about smarter retrieval for smarter search for smarter AI apps. So as part of Azure AI Search, there's a capability called Semantic Ranker. And unlike vectorization, it's not something I could sort of show baby examples of because this is a super sort of state-of-the-art re-ranking system that's based on deep learning models and magic. And so it's proprietary stuff. Microsoft's worked for ages on it, and it's tuned to a broad set of customer scenarios to really give the highest performing kind of retrieval mode that is on offer. So to try to explain the magic, if we take a step back in the context of Azure AI Search, Microsoft has worked a ton on sort of relevance using all the existing and sort of well understood methods, but also the new information retrieval tricks from over the years. And so vector search is awesome at conceptual similarity, but vector search actually sucks at exact matches. So if you're searching for something like a product code or a street name or an ID, it's not going to do very well, because if I ask it for like, hey, I want to find houses on Lemon Street, it's going to give me results for Lime Street, because it's like, lemons and limes, you guys are the same. So Lemon Street houses and Lime Street houses, here you go. But like, that's not what I'm after. But then on the other hand, we have talked about keyword search and all its challenges with the vocabulary gap. And so the ideal is actually to combine the two. And so in AI search, and I think probably in other products as well, it's called hybrid search or hybrid retrieval, depending on if you're thinking about it from the search or the retrieval end. But basically, you have keyword search and you have vector search. They're combined automatically, and the results get fused together before they get returned to you. And so what happens is I do a search, I hit the vector index, I hit the keyword index separately, I fuse the results together, I take the top K, and then I feed them into an extra step. And so what it does is, using the sort of initial two searches down the bottom, it goes through my millions and billions of documents in my data source. It takes it down to, say, the top 50 or 100. And then once I only really have 50 or 100 documents, I can kind of afford to run this deep learning model on this, which is quite heavy, reasonably expensive relative to just doing a search. I can afford to run it on those to sort out which are the actual top results. And so if I took the top K, back to saying top K, if I took to the top K, say 50 results, and fed them into the deep learning step, I would end up getting the very best results and ranked as well. So it'll be number 1, number 2, number 3. And so hence it's called a ranker, or a re-ranker in this case, because it would have been ranked at some stage during the search, but then we're re-ranking the top 50 documents. So there's actually a little bit more here, where the score from the re-ranking model is also a normalized score, which, whatever that means, it allows you to set thresholds to exclude documents that just aren't good enough. Because remember, right, in the context of generative AI apps, we're not just asking it to return a list of 50 search results so you can, go through like a search engine. In the end, you're actually passing one or more of those results back to a large language model, and then say, hey, language model, turn this into a human readable response and give it back to my user. So you'd actually rather have less results going to that language model than have sort of bogus results that are merely just distracting the language model from actually saying the right things. So this is why re-ranking is pretty cool. So I guess the point to take away on retrieval is, we've already had keyword search, which is the leftmost bar on each of those graphs. Vector search is new and cool. It can do things based on meaning, but hybrid search between them is even better. And then you add semantic ranker for the best results. And so these are kind of 3 different data sets from pretty extensive evaluations. It's using something NDCG, whatever. It's a well-known metric in the retrieval information retrieval space for measuring overall relevance. And the third graph there, actually, the third one there, Miracle, that's actually a multilingual data set as well. So this general rule of thumb applies not just to English, it applies across different languages as well. And what else do I want to say? And so did I mention actually hybrid and semantic search? If you are using Azure AI search, it's literally adding like and hybrid equals yes, or and reranker equals yes. So it's pretty effortless to immediately increase the quality of your search results and therefore increase the quality of the experience of your app and your users. So just for those who are interested, there are actually a ton of moving parts when it comes to a query. So it's not always that, hybrid plus semantic ranker does better than the other thing, but it is almost always that hybrid does better than the ones before, and then semantic ranker does even better. So unless you have a very specific use case, like you're doing a product ID search or some sort of proper name search, extensive evaluations across a broad range of application scenarios basically shows that hybrid fusing and semantic re-ranking is the secret sauce to products like Azure AI Search, which will help you search smarter. And just as a case in point, actually, last year OpenAI launched a number of new capabilities, which are the first time that within OpenAI itself they're using the RAG pattern. And so all that is actually running on Azure AI Search, which is literally one of the largest RAG workloads on the planet. So this stuff it's real, it's ready, and you can jump right in. I think I do have a minute, so I'll play a minute video before wrapping up. Hope sound works. Sound is not working.
OpenAI service on their own data from various data sources. This means that organizations can create cutting-edge Gen AI applications and copilots that base responses on their own data with enhanced security features such as private endpoint, VPN, and document-level access control. Plus, businesses can leverage these models to chat with their data, see citations, and tailor the behavior of a chat experience to their data. Once ready, developers can also deploy a web app or Copilot and share it with internal users and their customers. Azure OpenAI service on your data capability makes it easy for developers to deliver the next-gen AI apps and solutions for end users. Visit aka.ms/AOAI service to learn more and apply for access to Azure OpenAI service.
Don't need that again. Cool. So actually AI Search even includes a free tier, so you can try it now if you want to for free. And if you want the easiest way to get started with RAG applications, you could try it out in the AI Studio. Spoiler alert, there's also a Copilot Studio, which Chimes will show you. And if you love search and you're curious about those numbers and the detailed metrics I was talking about just before, the process and the actual outcomes of those evaluations are documented in a whole lot more detail in this article right here. So to save you just one link instead of 4, I have put the links from the previous slide and the link to the video onto this link here. It's actually just my GitHub. I'll upload my slides there as well if you want them later. But I might update a version. So check back in 2 days if you go find the PDF on there and it's missing something that I've showed you today. Just go check it back in 2 days. I'll make sure I update it. So save this QR code or aka.ms/genai-links. I'll make sure I post it onto the meetup site as well. And so with that, I will hand over to Chimes. And yeah, thanks for listening to me talk about search.
Questions online. So,
time for a quick 5-minute break. Get a glass of water or head to the restroom. Is that all right? 5 minutes? Yes.
Yeah.
Sit up.
It's interesting because actually just site search engine, search engine.
You into the chat?
All right, I will just go a little bit up.
Oh.
Don't worry.
Leave us.
On that account, which
Yeah.
yeah, and when you are able to
Give me, yeah.
when you are able to look at so many formats of files, right?
Okay.
How do you control that kind of data quality or that someone like just 10 years ago and it's rubbish, with the create more noise.
Yeah, so really it does. So something you can sort of do some pre-processing on your data. So what I've seen people do is say like with the sort of filter by purpose. So then you got, I guess you kind of taint the document setup.
Yeah.
So you could do things like that. You could even do it in the data. So
yeah.
Depending on what the things you want to do in the data, if you think actually older documents are less valid or
that particular one, that part comes from kind of human judgment, like
yeah, so if those things, if you realize those things are. So I think the first one is just to try it as it is.
Yeah.
And if you realize the old data is messing up your response, then you think, okay, is age the problem? Is it the age of the document that's the problem, or is it the author, seniority level of the author?
Yeah.
And then you can add almost like you add a flag in your data source. So that when you go and index it, it takes it into account, and you can filter based on that. But I guess frequently the other thing is if you are doing sort of customer data or
it's like ERP data.
ERP data. Yeah. So the other one on ERP data is, I guess it's also just like a reflection that that sometimes the data, the fact that that older data is there, maybe you could chucking it into storage, filing it away so that it's no longer there. Because if you think about if the AI system is getting confused over the data, then you had a human that was looking through the ERP and could equally find something that was outdated, right? And so it could actually confuse. So then, I'm not saying the data's garbage, but it's a good way. Like AI is a good way to reflect maybe some data quality issues, and it could be
some other process.
Yeah. So it could be worth looking into actually whether there's a data quality. So then that's just like a solely a data problem. That's actually got nothing to do with the AI, just the AI sort of.
Yeah, I suspect so.
That's quite, but I guess another interesting one is that you mentioned like one of the recombine.
Two things.
System, eh? Then it's a few different systems. So how do you compare them? And...
So you must say the proprietary system comes from. I don't actually know, it's like dark magic. But yeah, so what they've done is like research. Initially, if you like
well, they're still there, so that's a good thing. Otherwise, it would have got
ideally,
you're
working like if you're chatting over an ERP system, you might actually know based on the query, you might actually know already whether it's more suited for a vector search or more suited for a research.
Okay. So have some almost like manual rules saying that
so
system comes.
You could do that yourself. And then it's going to be they will just hit keyword search. That doesn't cost you. That costs search. You can do that yourself, but as queries become more complex, you probably don't want to be. You're going to end up with a lot of logic to figure out. And so what semantic rank is, so hybrid search just gives you a good result.
You are a concept.
At simple level, it does both, and it gives you the results for both, which sometimes might mean if you're searching for a current name, you don't actually want any of the vector search results. Or if you're searching for meaning, you don't actually want any. So that's That's what semantic ranker does. It's able to figure out as an additional step, just based on the top level results, what it is. And you can,
I got what something to do. I'm just curious.
that's I don't know. It's managed. It's managed. It's kind of like training the large language models in the first phase. It's sort of able to figure out what it is, and that's why I was actually showing the evaluation, because I have no idea how to explain it. I'm just like, yeah, it works. It works great. But to be honest, yeah, it's proven that it works great. So I can't give you a better answer than that. But yeah, it comes from that exactly. The waste management. Like, when do I use what? How do I get it?
This is my first one. My first one, so I have no idea what to talk about.
Yeah, no worries. So what's your name? Nice to meet you, mate.
Let's go be.
Hey.
What are you going to do?
My name is Alex.
38 of those years, we're going to sweep under the rug. We're going to forget about. The rest is going to be. Okay, well,
the hybrid model using the two approach, hybrid and the backend one, and then have a normalized score. But it's buying apple and orange. How do you normalize it? You know, which weights do you give more, and then especially if it's dynamic, right? I can manually decide the rule. You know, maybe something like got a small experience, for example, right? If it's but
Studio. One is
how is that ruined?
Azure AI Studio, so that's a UI code, or you could do it in your interface. So that when they show the
8 months.
so it's that interface, so you can do it.
Yeah, just had a upgrade.
Your files for you're like, let's talk him. So you could do it very easily. Just using the user deploy
you know, in some cases, maybe on the vector search a bit better. In some cases,
riding the wave or just
So you got the Azure AI Studio.
actually, you know, when
Did you say that?
So different.
Yeah, so I'll have that page. So the Azure on your data. Yeah. So if you want to, if you follow that, literally you'll be able to 10 minutes to start off with. It will give pretty good flavor. No worries. Thank you.
You work with Jordan? Oh, by the way, it's took about over viral when I was.
All right, welcome back.
Maybe you should have.
Ready to get started. We'll all just take a seat. Thank you online for waiting for us. I realize sitting for long periods of time, sometimes it isn't the play, especially at the end of a long working week. So kia ora everyone, my name is Chimes. That's my name because in New Zealand, because no one can really pronounce my name. My name is actually Chimene Bonhomme. It's a French name, so it's okay if no one gets it, just please call me Chimes. So if you can't tell from my accent, I'm actually from Australia. If it confused you even more that I said kia ora, I'm sorry, that's a part of the package. I'm part of the Cross Solutions and Industry Innovation team at Microsoft. I've been here for over 6 years. Part of my role is to develop what we call value-based deliverables. So that's working with business strategists and industry marketing to try and find ways to build solution deliverables that brings value to our customers. So not selling services, but looking at how to develop and deliver solutions to customers, not just selling them and making fancy PowerPoint. So what I'm going to go through today is Copilot with AI Studio and Copilot Studio. Now, these are only 2 ways that you can build it. So I tried to put it in a way in the assumption, because the way this was pitched to me was, oh, we're going to do a Global AI Bootcamp. And I was like, okay, what level? Level 100. And Abby comes up here and gives a bit of a level 300. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look like such a noob when I do this because I prepared for level 100. So I realize I saw a few people with hands up saying, yes, I've touched Copilot in M365 or with Copilot Studio. But if you haven't tried Copilot before, or you've tried a little bit of it, then this session is for you. So today we'll be going through what is Copilot, why should you care, if at all, how do you build one? If you don't want to build one, how do you still get one? But also, where do you go for more information? And if that's not sufficient and you still have questions, who to ask? People in this room. So I do have some questions for some fabulous prize grabs. So first question is, who knows what was Copilot's first name? No. We work together too much. You already know the answers.
Microsoft.
Nice try, nice try. So it was Bing Chat Enterprise. So that was the very early origin of our Copilot. And then, of course, Microsoft acquired OpenAI and implemented ChatGPT-4. And we have, amongst a few other things, what Copilot is today. So I'm going to give a prize because you said Microsoft, but you tried. Now, I do have another question. What is the most interesting thing that you have used Copilot for? If you've used it before, or what was the most ridiculous output that you've seen it push? I can give an example. So one time, what I usually do is I transcribe meetings and get summaries. And I have a colleague in Dubai who goes by the name Yamama. So in the transcripts, it always says, your mum is going to do this and your mum is going to do that. And I said, oh, no, we got to fix this. This isn't okay. Thankfully, my colleague is a good sport and he has a good laugh. So I hope he's okay with me sharing that. But does anyone for a prize have a good story about the most interesting or ridiculous use case? Yes.
I used it for the first time last week for writing an email to someone I was trying to sell to, and it came back and said that I was too aggressive and demanding to tone my tone. And I actually wasn't, but I was demanding an appointment, but not in a demanding way. But it came back and said, you need to tone it down to be more friendly. I was like, oh, that's not a good start.
Oh, God. Well, let me give you a prize. Notebook.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to share a story? For one more prize. Okay, don't be shy. Yes. Oh, you want another prize? Okay, yeah, why not? Let's go.
So I try to describe a difference between two books in a visualized way. So ask Copilot create two images based on those two books.
Yeah. Did it work?
Did it work? So I ask Copilot, right, why is it created the image that way? That's the part I try to learn more about. Maybe my prompt wasn't that right. You know, I think the answer it gave, some of that is kind of made up because for the citation back to the book, you know, why it created that image that way. But when I click it, it went to a 404 page. Yeah.
Oh. I don't know if anyone else has gotten that area. I have. But have a bottle. Stay hydrated, stay fresh. Thank you everyone for sharing your stories. Okay, so I saw a few people put up their hands of they have used Copilot. Who hasn't used Copilot or is relatively new? Okay, welcome. This is for you. So as you know, Copilot started from Bing Chat Enterprise. And the way that it has been pushed out and developed is to be used as a tool to assist with complex cognitive tasks. So what we tried to do this a number of years ago using Azure Graph APIs, but also with Azure Search on documents and whatnot, and also Azure Translate. And it's all cumulated into what we see now as Copilot. So some of the examples that we've just seen, not just for myself, but members of our tech community, is that we can use it to do translation from different people speaking different languages, but also transcribing from different meetings, but also construing emails from us, or even if doing something a little more complex, such as I want to build a PowerPoint presentation for a customer based on what I know of this account. And I also want to use information from the open web to gather information about them and what their financials are to build a compelling use case for them to do a sign-on, just as a wild example. So those are that's something that you can do using enterprise data, but also open web data with Copilot to do these complex cognitive tasks. Now this next slide, I just want to mention that I will be sharing this. This is not a Microsoft slide, this is my slide. It's my homework slide. So when I first heard that Copilot was coming out, all I saw was Copilot attached to everything. And I just went, wait, back up. What is it and how do I use it? So this is what I broke it down to. Now I heard Abby earlier during our 5-minute break say there are a couple of different ways that you can start and build Copilot. There are actually 3. There are 3. One of them is very lightweight, but it's still useful. So the third one, so the 2 we're going to talk about today, obviously is going to be Copilot Studio and Azure AI Studio, but there's also a lightweight version of Copilot Studio in M365. So, and that's it. It's a limited subset of Copilot Studio capabilities, but it still gives you the capacity to build your own Copilot within M365. And there are a bunch of different ways that you can get Copilot for M365, and that's via Microsoft 365 licensing or Office licensing. Promise this isn't a sales slide. It's just to try and understand how do I get it and what's different and why would I use one over the other. So what's good about this one is IT is in control for Copilot Studio for M365. So if someone decides that has the privilege to build a Copilot, IT is going to know about it and they can put a halt to it if they want. In terms of Copilot Studio, so the beauty about the Studio, and this is the one that people are most familiar about because it's easier to access and there's a free tier to use. So this one is built on Power Platform. It's more user friendly. There's also no infrastructure management required. It's because it's already built on Power Platform and it's a SaaS application. So this one is the low code experience, low code to no code, if you will. And once you've built out the rough knowledge base of your Copilot inside Copilot Studio, you can then attach about 1,200 different plugins from Power Platform to extend its capabilities or to embed it inside other Windows applications. And where we take it from there is, what if you don't want to spend a mozza on a license? You don't want the lightweight version. You don't want the low code version. You want the dev heavy version. And that brings us to AI Studio. And this is where, as Abby mentioned earlier, you can start pushing in different APIs such as Vision to do convolutional neural networks. Sorry, it took me a while there. CNNs. And put in your own models against that. Of course, you do pay to play, and an Azure subscription is required, even just to set up the environment. And the cost is dependent on which APIs, which Azure AI services that you use against it that will determine the cost, which is why I haven't really given a pricing against that. So it gives you an idea of what you can start with. You can do $200 per month on a free subscription. For a period of time until it runs out, if you wanted to test Azure AI Studio. But if after today's session, those are the 2 ways that you can get it. Either a free, during the free tier of Copilot Studio, or the $200 free subscription for Azure AI Studio. So I'll just take pause there, and if we have any questions, because I'm happy to have an open conversation. Nothing online?
Which one is
no, nothing.
No. Yes.
Which one is suited for home?
Home.
No, sorry. Which one is suited for which business case or which kind of customers?
So it depends on what you're trying to build. So, for example, if you want to create a call center bot, I would probably use AI Studio. If you're using a standalone application for an internal website, I would use Copilot Studio. So for an example, I built in our SharePoint our own site, my team's own site with our own knowledge base and IP that I created. And I wanted just a Copilot for just that site. So it would only plug into that knowledge base and not go to the other parts of our internal SharePoint to muddle the response feedback. So that would be an example of how that you would use that internally. Azure AI Studio, as I said, if you wanted to pull on external data and not just internal data, or you have a more complex scenario, I would go forth with Azure AI Studio, particularly if you wanted to use more AI service plugins, such as if you wanted to use the OpenAI service, translation, look more towards content safety, or document intelligence as an example. And those are the additional plugins that you can use for the AI Studio against your Copilot. It really depends on what you're trying to do, unfortunately. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Go. So in terms of the anatomy of a Copilot, we do have 3 different components, and you've probably seen this before from different conferences in the past. So the first one being the user experience layer, and then we have the orchestration layer, and then the foundational models. So the user experience layer, it involves designing a conversational interface that looks at the natural language interactions. So it's a good thing that Abby went before me, because that's looking into RAG. And then we have the middle layer, which handles prompt filtering, but also response filtering and executing different plugins and other AI services to improve its functionality. And then lastly, we have the foundational models. And this is part of the other plugins of finer tuned models to provide the core AI capabilities. Now, this could be Mistral, this could be Llama, just as an example of other AI core functionalities. So to confirm that Copilot does seem to be everywhere when we talk about Microsoft at the moment, and this is just a part of it. And this is when you start looking at M365, Copilot for M365, but also Copilot for Power Platform as well. So these are already embedded, but it depends on your license. So you can use Copilot in any one of these applications should you have it on your personal or your business license, depending on what tier that license is. And you can use Copilot for free. For example, Bing Chat Enterprise, which is now Copilot. If you go to the Edge browser, you will see Copilot up there in the top right-hand corner, where you can start asking it questions about the page and pulling in information from other sites as well. So let's have some fun and build our own Copilot. So if you haven't built one before, the URL is copilotstudio.preview.microsoft.com, and you can start building one up for free. So this one, as I mentioned earlier, this is our low to no code environment, and it's free to use. So when we look at building our own Copilot, there is the opportunity to extend it, but in this case, it won't be to other it'll only be within the data sets that we feed it, but also enterprise, our own organizational data sets. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just jump out and go straight into the site. Let me just change the display. Let's see.
On that slide,
yeah,
you've got Copilot Studio. So you create a G. Does that mean that that's Copilot is open?
Sorry, Copilot is open.
You've got to create a GPT.
The main banner says answer unanticipated questions in real time based on content you choose, create a GPT. The main banner on the right side.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, so you've actually got create a GPT, so.
Yeah, you can. I wouldn't recommend it.
Why it was there versus being actually.
Some people like to go hard. Let me duplicate these displays. Yes, please don't create your own GPT. It depends on what kind of phone you like. Let me escape. Okay, so going into that URL I mentioned for Copilot Studio Preview, I've already pre-populated a oh, it's not showing. Oh, goodness grief. Okay. This is what happened last time. Yeah. All right, we got it. Okay, so Copilot studio.preview.microsoft.com. So I've already pre-populated a Copilot just in case, but I'll take you from scratch from a Copilot. So from the Copilot panel, you would go to create a new Copilot, give it a charming or useful name. And we're just going to use English US. We don't have English Kiwi at the moment. And here we can actually start giving it a knowledge base. So from here, this can either be from your own Dataverse or a website, or it can be from a document. But for the purpose of today, what I'll do is I'll just take the Learn documentation for Copilot and put that URL in. So here we can just put in the website. Click create. Nothing like a fancy animation to make you feel like something's happening. Better than a spinning wheel.
Clip it.
Clip it was ahead of his time. I always turned him into a wizard or the dog. The eyebrows on Clip It saying, hey, you sure you know what you're doing? It got to me back in the 90s.
It's a spinning wheel.
There it is. It's not spinning. It's not spinning. I'm not having a good time, am I?
One question while we're waiting.
Yeah, sure.
Cortana.
Yes.
Is that still around, available, being used?
No.
Just curious. I still use it on my Windows phone. But...
Oh, Windows phone. Enough said. I'm going to get in trouble here. All right. So in less than a minute, we already have a Copilot with a knowledge base based on the site that we gave it. I gave it quite a comprehensive one, so one from the Microsoft Learn docs. Now you can already start asking it questions. It already has a couple of topics dedicated to it just as a standard, but you can create some new ones. So if I wanted to create some Q&A pathways, I would just go to create a topic from blank. I would change this phrase. Let's use Copilot. You can tell it's a real demo because of all the mistakes. And if you like, you can add a condition for if or alternatively, you can ask with an adaptive card. Now, with the adaptive card, this is where you're starting to get into a bit of JSON, and that's where you can add a visual prompt and output if you like, for the end user, just to enhance the user experience. Because I have noticed that some people are more visual learners, and a wall of text doesn't always suit them. So this is also another way that you can go around it. I'm sure you've seen once you've entered a prompt inside Copilot, it does tend to give you a wall of text, and sometimes that doesn't always work for everyone, and it really depends on the audience that you're catering to. So you can add an adaptive card if you like. But if you wanted, as an example, so leave here, you can overwrite some of these existing phrases. So let's say you don't like some of these phrases, you can edit them as well and override some of those existing messages. But if I was to ask here, as an example, what is Copilot? It will go back and send that to the knowledge base of the URL that I have inputted, and you can turn that answer into a Q&A pathway if you like. So I'll just take pause if there are any questions just on starting from the basics. Anything online? Yes.
Yeah, for the cost, you mentioned that it is free.
Yes.
So it's like it's doing some like it's using an AI model, go and retrieving data. Is that not gonna like incur some costs?
Yes. About, I believe it's, let me go back to my thing. It's for $200 for 25,000 messages per month. There is a limit on the test side. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly that is. I don't know, DSR, if you know what the limit is. No.
That was of my head. No.
I haven't gone that hard on the test environment. I have to admit, I have on my subscription. That's a story for later. So this is one that you can also add as a Q&A. So if I was to go back to topics, create a topic, create from the description within the Copilot. So you can name your topic. Tell me what. So you can actually take this and put that in as a response, if you like. Whoa. Days like this, I miss the mouse. Okay. And you can then save that as one. And you can take this on a journey as you would do a traditional chatbot. But given the intelligence of Copilot, you wouldn't really need to have to. It depends on what goal you're trying to get for the end user. You want them to get the answer with the least number of prompts and the least number of clicks as possible for them to reach their resolution. Because there's one thing that we do have, and that you've probably noticed, is, did this answer your question? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I have seen some people write back, no, it didn't answer my question, you stupid bot, stop trying to take over the world. We do see those. So getting to the resolution with the least number of clicks and prompts as best as possible. You probably have also seen where people are showing, giving lessons on how to ask good prompts of Copilot and ChatGPT, but also other smart chatbots as well, who shan't be named at the moment. And they would be formatted in the same way as if you would have a conversation with another intelligent individual. Whereas in this case, just as a wild example, how much is a flight to Amsterdam, for example? We're missing a lot of context, right? We're missing from the location, we're missing from when, what is the purpose. So the more context you give it, the better. But that being said, it also depends on the knowledge base. If you have a subset knowledge base and a designated Copilot for that knowledge base, then they can reach that resolution quicker as well. So there just are some food for thought when looking at the purpose and the audience for building a Copilot. Yeah.
On your suggestion to search flights for Amsterdam.
Yes.
If you did want to search for flights for Amsterdam, would you be inputting websites like Qantas or Air New Zealand or something like that as your input? And probably then have your queries updated in such a way that your query then tells you that, hey, every day keep looking for these things and tell me when is the best time to data maybe. If it's training itself on every day's data, last 6 weeks, tell us what is the best time to buy flights or buy tickets, something like that.
possible?
I don't believe it's training itself on that data because it's always refreshing and looking. You can ask it based on trends, current trends, when is the best time to go based on seasonality and market prices as an example, but it won't be retraining itself on specifically on that. That being said, if you were to use Azure AI Studio, you can build a model that does just that. It's going to be very painful to maintain and very expensive, but it can be done just for that purpose.
Because then what Skyscanner and all doing is something.
Yes.
Of the AI bot, they're doing it. If you can input these websites, the actual airline websites, and scour the internet for whatever code we have. Yeah, just look. The moment you express that, I don't like, oh shit, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had to book a flight to Amsterdam from here for a team offsite. It was very alarming. So yeah, just as an example. Yes.
So with this particular example you just said, right? So it's literally trained with the data coming from a single page.
At the moment, from a site, yes.
From
a site, yeah.
So we actually go beyond than that. I want to do more or bit more data to it. Let's say, I don't know, example you mentioned before, SharePoint. I want to feed all the SharePoint content into this.
So assuming that this Copilot is connected to your organizational tenant, you would go to the pane for settings, generative AI, and then you can attach more public websites or more SharePoint pages. So in here, you can already see the one I've already inputted, but you can keep adding to this and keeping that knowledge base within its own boundary. So it just doesn't extrapolate everything off the dark web. And the other thing that you can go to, which is quite interesting, is you can upload static documents as well. So I was going to show this as an example anyway, but I went online and found, because I like to stir the pot, what is the difference between Copilot, ChatGPT, and Bard? And what I did was I just saved that to my desktop as a PDF. And I go back up here. I could just upload it. Desktop. Now this only takes about 10 or so seconds to upload, but then you can start querying based on what you've inputted from there. And this one is using the document iteration inside Copilot Studio. So it's that capability is already inbuilt to read from that text. I hope that answers your question. No? Yes? Okay, good. I'm glad. Yes.
Is there any API that I can connect to Copilot? For example, if I want to connect my Azure cloud to Copilot and ask, how can I reduce my cost by 25%? It's not valuable for Microsoft.
Did you want to answer that?
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, okay, my friend, DSR.
Yeah. You can ask exactly that. So
yes,
you don't have to. You just go in there, use that Copilot for Azure, click the button. It's already there.
It does already exist. I mean, you can ask it, but it already exists inside the Azure portal at the moment.
It's in preview though. I think not everyone gets it. It's not available to everyone, but there is a little Copilot button at the top of the Azure portal. Got access to it that you click, and you can just say, might I save some money? How do I reduce my Azure spend? Or run
Copilot knows what services I'm using at the moment. If I have, I don't know, instances or
So the Copilot would be the application attached to your Azure portal subscription and user. Yeah, so I can't open and show you mine because it's a Microsoft one, but essentially it uses your Azure portal login and subscription as its knowledge base, and then it would query from there based on what we know at Microsoft on recommendations of how to reduce costs and where you can find savings to provide you some of those recommendations. At the moment, what we've had in the past, like for security recommendations and cost savings and we do have the notification saying, oh, you've reached a certain spend limit. And it's like, oh, great, now what? So this is where the next step, as DSR mentioned in the preview, it's not just a notification or a warning and saying, hey, you're spending too much here, but it's also going to say, well, this is where you can spend, but it's at the moment it's in preview. I don't have insight right now on when it's going to come out to GA, but it's a work in progress. Are you having trouble?
Is there any plan to extend it to multi-cloud or just focus now on Microsoft?
No, sorry, no. That would just be for the cost savings. Would be just be for the Azure portal. I don't. Highly unlikely Google and AWS are going to collaborate and have.
Sometimes they have application that runs on multiple cloud.
Devil's advocate, they might put Bard into the Google Cloud and say here's how you can cost spend, but it won't be a Copilot advisor. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Yes.
Question. So as part of the Power Platform, AI is one of the pillars, like among the 5 pillars.
Yeah.
So that and these recent updates for Copilot Studio, I mean, I see this is quite similar to building a model and everything. What's the difference? All of these would kind of just replace that AI module in Power Platform.
No, it's seen as an extension of that platform. So it's built on the platform, but you would use other features next to it, such as Power Automate, to create next action tasks and whatnot. So it wouldn't be a replacement as per se. And that gives you, actually takes me to my next point, actually. So
question.
Can I finish this question?
Sure.
Please. Okay. So and does it replace it? So the answer is no, but you can add action. So given that this is built on Power Platform as a SaaS, so you can actually say, as in you do Power Automate or Flow, you can do a task such as delete a row, send an email, or send an SMS, just as an example. Obviously not hi, or run a flow with Power Automate for desktop, or send a Teams message as an example. So there is no replacement. It's actually going to be as an intelligent adjacent application to saving time with cognitive tasks. Yeah.
So if the AI module is pretty much expanded and used.
Yes. Yeah. So it's more of an expansion, an additional feature. Yes. Sorry. All right.
Yeah. In my organization, we had a quite extensive knowledge base as a video content.
Oh, fun. Yes.
Do you see what would be the path for me if I wanna to get this into like a knowledge base? Would it be somewhere in this pipeline for this product a possibility for me to feed a video document library from SharePoint and say, can you take a transcript for these videos and then feed it?
From Azure AI Studio, yes. From Copilot Studio, no. So it would already need to be distilled preferably before it reaches Azure AI Studio. The reason being is because you pay for the call. So if you're paying for the prompt, but you're also paying for the translation service, that's actually a good question, because I need to double check. Would it cost more to do the transcription service in Studio than it would be to do it standalone? So you would preferably have that distilled before you put it into Azure AI Studio for Copilot. The reason being is it will actually save time. I'm not sure about the cost at the moment. So if you're getting it to transcribe from that video, it's going to take a while. I mean, you've seen Teams do it. It has to save and then do the transcription, then do the summary. It might take maybe a minute or two, depending on how long and how many speakers there were. But you definitely want to do it beforehand. So it would be more better for that as a time-saving activity for the end user than having to watch that wheel that wasn't spinning to get a response.
Thanks.
Yes.
Question when we create generative AI, for example, our source is SharePoint.
Yes.
SharePoint of the team.
Yeah.
The organization. And I create a QA1 and asking a question based on that knowledge base. And I will receive a reply based on what I have in my SharePoint, for example. The question is, where is that data? Next time, if that knowledge base is this, they improve it. Next time, if I ask a question, it use the previous reply or it's going through the another search in the document.
Sorry, what was the question part?
I mean, I ask a question. I
Yes.
said, based on the SharePoint, for example, I ask, what is ABC?
Yes.
2 days after, there is some adding to that information. Again, I ask it the same question. What is ABC? My question is, the new search is going through the new document or is still using the previous result to show up?
I would have to see it to understand. So it's you're giving the same question to the same document, but it's giving a different result.
The document is improved. For example, the document is changed.
Oh, it's a live document.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
If I ask a question 2 times in 2 different days, for example, yesterday I asked a question, and today I ask question. The result is the same, or the second question I'm asking is going through the new search.
Probably asking if the Copilot is live or something. Like
It would go through. It would go through the new. It would go through the updated documentation.
Like if your data on OneDrive share.
Sorry, I got it. That's a mind blank. Yes, it does. It does re-index it for you, so that you have to say that time and then you update. It has to, because there's new data in there. Otherwise, it won't be pulled upon at all, and it won't come up in the new response. Sorry, that took me a second.
The option same with URLs, yes.
At the URL entered is static, but the it would be static. So the the content would update. The index.
No, I mean, when we input the URL as a knowledge base, does it export at that time, or is it live? And if the URL, if the content of the URL changes,
each prompt. Each prompt. It's a new. It's a fresh index.
Is there any option to turn it off to keep the cache in the Copilot? If I have, I don't know, a million queries and I want to get an straight away instead of going and search everything done yesterday or 2 days ago. Is there any memory for a Copilot that I can use instead of looking for a new data?
It does have sessions. But in terms of turning off the indexing, I don't believe you can do that. Have you ever heard of turning off indexing? That's a bit.
No.
Yeah,
because it's all live documents. It's building a RAG index and behind the scenes, as Abby was talking about. And you could, with that logic flow, you could implement some sort of caching mechanism, but generally it's live. It's whatever the current document is.
They wouldn't, because then the answer could even be incorrect.
Yes.
The previous state of data.
Yeah, exactly. So then he's got to put in, right?
Yeah, because the website can be hacked. So if I have a someone hacked a website, I can get something that it's not valuable.
My question.
Yes.
SharePoint. If you give access to SharePoint, that's fine. And you, let's just say you're a small business or a medium-sized business and you got a repository, possibly 4 or 5 years old. You want to retrieve data, that's fine. Is there any way of logging that to see, oh, hang on, nothing's been touched. That part's never been touched for the last 3 years. Nobody's even asked about it. Is there a way of logging that so you could actually refine and slim down your SharePoint?
You mean last updated for certain documentation?
You might be asking for historical data in your questions, and it might be for the last 3 years. And maybe policy has said, look, anything past 3 years, we generally tend to delete, but they hang on to it anyway for 7 years for legal purposes, for example.
That's a condition that you can actually add into the topic, saying if a person is asking for information that it only existed after, let's say, 5 years ago, then it can say, hey, our organizational policy says, we don't recommend using this because it's out of date. So that would be a prompt that I would say. I mean, it's obviously you don't want to delete the old data, but I would actually use that as a prompt. So it's more likely business data management than anything.
Done that search though. Is that loggable in any way that then the IT guys can say, hey, look, we've actually got the same question's been asked by 10 different people, or 10, the same scenario has been created by 10 people. Is there any way of tracking that in any way?
Analytics.
It's got to come to that.
We're actually almost at time. We've only got 12 minutes left, so apologies, folks. I'm loving the interaction and the questions. But yes, thanks, Luke. So any of the prompts and also query timings, but also user interaction and feedback, all of that you can get from the inbuilt Power BI analytics inside Copilot Studio. You can also get this inside Azure AI Studio as well. Obviously, this is just built on URL and I haven't done much with it, so we're not really going to get anything back. But that information is there, I promise. So that's how you would answer your question in terms of getting feedback. But also you can also set up another Power Automate flow saying, a certain threshold was reached for a topic. This question keeps getting asked. It would find that familiarity. I'm using vector and red, as you mentioned, using a confidence interval saying, hey, this type of question has been asked several times. Might want to address it to have a more formal response if it doesn't yet already exist.
It's almost been like if you're typing the question and IntelliSense goes and starts filling it out for you. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I don't want it to take my day job. Yes, but yeah, that could be. Yeah, sometimes IntelliSense is a bit hit or miss sometimes, but yes, that's one way of going about it. So I realize that we're probably a bit at time. So I just want to, I don't have time to go through AI Studio. That was my poor time management skills. But essentially, it's similar to Copilot Studio, but it is more hands-on and builder developer heavy, but that gives you more extensibility to use AI services that you have in the Azure stack. But also the additional benefit to our man in the back is that you can actually pull out data from different sources. So it doesn't just have to be from your internal SharePoint or from your own Teams or organizational data sources or your own Dataverse. You can also pull it from S3 as an example, or other third party or competitor.
AWS? AWS S3?
Yeah. So you can also pull it from pull data from anywhere, and that's the power we're trying to give to the community to be able to take advantage of AI. We want it to be available for all, so the saying goes. So with that, I do have a series of links available. Abby already gave you the AI Studio links. Here are the Copilot Studio links. All of the PowerPoints and links will be shared on the Meetup site after today, as well as the recording. And as always, if you have any questions and we don't work together, please ping us on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. Indira. Thank you.
I just have one last request. Yeah. Can you send an extract of the chat that's going on Teams as well? Because it looks like it's a very interesting chat and we're missing on it.
Oh, it's mostly GIFs and inside jokes, but yes, we will send you a copy of that.
The links on. We'll post the links on together with all the other links as well, but we might skip over we might skip over the banter between Luke DSR and myself.
So that's the main fun.
Yeah.
We'll send you your own version of personal attacks and things like
Yeah, all in good fun. Yeah. Okay, we'll do that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Indira. Handing back over to our organizer.
You don't need to.
What? No?
You don't need to hand over the mic. I'll speak from here. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Times and Abby and Daniel and Reza. Everyone's help. It's a teamwork. So hands. What we want.